Good morning, students. I am Riya Sinha, your SST teacher. Today, we are going to start our sixth chapter of history, that is Kingdoms, Kings, and an Early Republic. In this chapter, we will discuss about different kingdoms and about the lifestyle and way of administration of different kings. So, let's start the chapter now. Here, first topic is given: how some men became rulers. At that time, there were no voting system or there were no election. So, how they would decide that who would rule them in the future? So, choosing leaders or rulers by voting is something that has become common during the last 50 years or so. So, how did men become rulers in the past? Most important question is that who can rule them, how they would decide. Some of the Rajas we read about in chapter 4 were probably chosen by the Jan, the people. But around 3000 years ago, we find some changes taking place in the ways in which Rajas were chosen. Some men now become recognized as Rajas by performing very big sacrifices. Means around 3000 years ago, if someone wanted to be a ruler or Raja, then they had to perform big sacrifices. The Ashwamedh or horse sacrifice was one such ritual. Now here a term has given Ashwamedh or horse sacrifice. A horse was let loose to wander freely and it was guarded by the Raja's men. If the horse wandered into the kingdom of other Rajas and they stopped it, then they had to fight. And if they allowed the horse to pass, then it meant that they accepted that the Raja who wanted to perform the sacrifice was stronger than them. So these Rajas were then invited to the sacrifice, which was performed by specially trained priests who were rewarded with gifts. The Raja who organized the sacrifice was recognized as being very powerful, and all those who came brought gifts for him. So this is the procedure of Ashwamedh or horse sacrifice. Then the Raja was a central figure in these rituals, obviously. So he often had a special seat, a throne, or a tiger skin. His charioteer, who was his companion in the battlefield and witnessed his exploits, chanted tales of his glory. Obviously, his charioteer was his companion because throughout the battle, he was the only person there who was continuously with Raja. So he witnessed all his exploits and whatever glory he had gained there, he can tell to the audience. His relatives, especially his wives and sons, had to perform a variety of minor rituals. The other Rajas were simply spectators who had to sit and watch the performance of the sacrifice only. Priests performed the rituals, including the sprinkling of sacred water on the king, and the ordinary people, the Vish or Vaishya, also brought gifts. However, some people, such as those who were regarded as Shudra by the priest, were excluded from many rituals. Here, we had discussed about some of the terms like Vaishya and Shudra. Now, first of all, we will learn Varna system. What were these? What were Shudra? What were Vaishya? So first of all, we will discuss about it. See, Varnas. We may have many books that were composed in North India, especially in the areas drained by the Ganga and the Yamuna during this period. So these books are often called latter Vedic because they were composed after the Rig Veda, about which we have learned in the previous chapter. So these include the Samved, Yajurved and Atharvaved as well as other books. These were composed by the priests and described how rituals were to be performed. And they also contained rules about society. So in these books, there were several different groups in societies at this time: priests and warriors, farmers, herders, traders, craftspersons, laborers, fishing folks, and forest people. Some priests and warriors were rich, as were some farmers and traders. Others, including many herders, craftspersons, and laborers, and fishing folk, and hunter-gatherers, were poor. So according to these books, the priests divided people into 4 groups called Varnas. And according to them, each one had a different set of functions. The first one was that of the Brahman. Brahmins were expected to study and teach the Vedas, perform sacrifices and receive gifts. In the second place were the rulers, also known as Kshatriyas. They were expected to fight battles and protect people. Third were the Vish or Vaishya. They were expected to be farmers, herders and traders. Both the Kshatriya and Vaishya could perform sacrifices. Here, till now we have learnt about 3 group of societies or 3 group of segregation in the society. First one is Brahman, who used to teach Vedas and study Vedas and perform sacrifices and receive gifts. Second one is rulers or Kshatriyas. They were expected to fight battles and protect people. Third were the Vish or the Vaishya, and they were expected to be farmers, herders and traders, and both the Kshatriya and Vaishya could perform sacrifices. After Brahman, Kshatriya and Vaishya, last were the Shudras, who had to serve the other 3 groups and could not perform any rituals. Often women were also grouped with the Shudra. Both women and Shudra were not allowed to study the Vedas. Women were not the segregation of the Varna system, but they were also considered equal to Shudra. They were not allowed to study the Vedas. The priest also said that these groups were decided on the basis of birth. For example, if one's father and mother were Brahmins, one would automatically become a Brahman and so on. And later they classified some people as untouchable also. These included some craftspersons, hunters and gatherers, as well as people who helped perform burials and cremations. The priest said that contact with these groups was polluting. Even many people did not accept the system of Varna laid down by the Brahmins, but some kings thought they were superior to the priest. Others felt that birth could not be a basis for deciding which Varna people belonged to. And besides, some people felt that there should be no differences amongst people based on occupation. Others felt that everybody should be able to perform rituals, and others condemned the practice of untouchability. Also, there were many areas in the subcontinent such as the northeast where social and economic differences were not very sharp and where the influence of the priest was limited. Now, why did people oppose the system of Varnas? Obviously, because some of them felt that everybody should be equal. We people are not the one who can classify them as who is the superior and who is inferior among them. So those who understand these things earlier also, they used to oppose this system. Now see, next topic here is Janpads. The Rajas who performed these big sacrifices were now recognized as being Rajas of Janpads, rather than Jans. The word Janpad literally means the land where the Jan set its foot and settled down. It is basically a combination of two words. Jan means people and Pad means foot. So the land where the people set its foot and settled down, it is considered as Janpads. Some important Janpads are shown in the map. Archaeologists have excavated a number of settlements in these Janpads, such as Purana Kila in Delhi, Hastinapur near Meerut, and Antranjikera near Etah. These both are in Uttar Pradesh. They found that people lived in huts and kept cattle as well as other animals. They also grew a variety of crops like rice, wheat, barley, pulses, sugarcane, sesame and mustard. So they made earthen pots also even. Some of these were grey in color, others were in red, and one special type of pottery found at these sites is known as painted grey ware. As is obvious from the name, these grey pots had painted designs, usually simple lines and geometric patterns. See, these painted grey ware are grey pots which had painted designs, usually simple lines and geometric patterns. Okay, now next topic is Mahajanpads. Now you all can guess what is the meaning of Mahajanpad, as you have earlier learned the meaning of Janpads. So about 2500 years ago, some Janpads became more important than others and were known as Mahajanpads. Those Janpads who became more important than the others, they were considered as Mahajanpads. See, some Mahajanpads were also there in the map. Most Mahajanpads had a capital city, and many of these were fortified. Fortified means that huge walls of wood, brick or stone were built around them. Forts were probably built because people were afraid of attacks from other kings and needed protection. So it is also likely that some rulers wanted to show how rich and powerful they were by building really large, tall and impressive walls around their cities. Also in this way, the land and the people living inside the fortified area could be controlled more easily by the king. So building such huge walls required a great deal of planning. Thousands, if not lakhs of bricks or stones had to be prepared, and this in turn meant enormous labor provided, possibly by thousands of men, women and children. And resources had to be found for all of this. Basically, the new Rajas now began maintaining armies also. Soldiers were paid regular salaries and maintained by the king throughout the year. Even some payments were probably made using punch marked coins. Okay, now that's all for today. Hope you all understood the cover topics well. In the next class, we will continue this chapter. Till then, thank you and have a nice day.